It's popcorn time, folks. Everybody knows by now, hundreds, if not thousands of people know the real Gary Tomlinson, the real Gary Tomlinson and family, Who Dares wins, Who Dares I win. They know much about the family as a result of this Ask Tomo website. Within an hour of leaving court yesterday, Tomlinson goes live for another tirade of lies and bullshit. Here we go.
Hi everybody, welcome to Dares Wins International One Loft race. This update won't be what some people are probably going to be expecting. It's about something totally different. I've just come out of court again today. That's the fourth time I've been in court with the man, you know him, Mark Lyford. Finally, it's put to bed. And I know some people are going to say, not all this again. Well, it's not you people what's had to put up with it for 4 years. It's not you people what's had to stand back there and watch your wife have a nervous breakdown. It's not you what's had to stand there and watch your son be arrested. It's me.
So, his son was arrested. His wife's had a nervous breakdown. Let's ask why. His son was arrested because Gary Tomlinson refused to let me pick the pigeons up via a courier service and insisted that I came to pick the pigeons up in person. Bullying, intimidating, typical Gary Tomlinson. And when we got there, his son assaulted my brother. That's why his son was arrested. He says his wife's had a nervous breakdown. He said that in court yesterday as well. What I'd say is actually, if it wasn't for his wife, this whole thing would have been done many years ago. It was his wife that refused to pay £3,000 in initial settlement that Gary had agreed to. It was his wife that's caused a lot of this problem. It was a wife that caused a lot of the problem on the day we went to pick the 7 pigeons up. I've asked the question before, is Gary Tomlinson the Donald Trump of the racing pigeon world? I think he may be. I think he takes a lot of the playbook from Donald Trump. I think he thinks if you say lies enough, they'll become facts. Let's remind ourselves of how this all started publicly online. Gary decided to take the social media in March 2020, telling people not to be fooled by me for calling his pigeons, which were my pigeons, in his race, venture pigeons. And then after an hour's phone call in April, trying to resolve it with no resolution, just 70 minutes later, bear in mind Gary and his family live 45 minutes from me. Just 70 minutes later, my car was blown up in my driveway, just 20 foot away from where my partner and my 16-year-old son at the time were. My son, as a result of that, left this house for 4 weeks as he was so scared at the time. We all know, or the intelligent ones listening to this, know that the bully always turns the victim if they're stood up to. And that's what Gary Tomlinson's been doing for a while now. He did it in court yesterday. But what he fails to mention is all of the hassle, tremendous upset that he's given to my family and I over the course of the last 4 years. But again, the bully always turns the victim.
And finally, the final chapter's over. It's done with. Differences with me and him, my background. I lived on a council estate for 40 years, a rough council estate. I worked as a coal miner for 33 years. So in all that time, I was taught and learnt to respect people, to be honest, and to know what's right from wrong.
So he takes great pride in saying that he was a coal miner and he lived on a rough council estate. The kind of a council estate where it may be acceptable to blow people's cars up if you think they've done you wrong or they've spoke out of turn. And he was also taught to respect people and be honest and know right from wrong. The thing he fails, of course, to realise is that in order to respect people, you need to give them respect. Something Gary knows little about. And knowing honesty and right from wrong, this man is a proven liar many times over. Let's carry on.
And again in that court today, so this is 4 times in court, 4 different judges. I've been awarded on a previous case £4,600 in costs, again, from which he's got to pay, which he's not paid a penny yet.
Okay, so this is just a big lie. 4 times in court, 4 times is won. and he's not been paid a penny, he says. This is the actual fact. Gary Tomlinson took me to the High Court for defamation about the Astomo site. He dropped that case. He took me and the British Masters race to the High Court for copyright infringement. He dropped the case against me and then went on to completely lie about the situation with the British Masters, which we'll come to. At court, the judge asked him what he was actually taking me to court about copyright-wise. The solicitor, the very well-paid solicitor, couldn't answer. I then decided to take him to lower courts because he was pushing me through the higher courts, which was a massive cost, and I was defending myself. I took him to the lower courts in Derby County Court. For the initial money, he never paid me. For the DVD, he never paid me the profits from. And for the 7 pigeons that he never gave me, which I paid £880 out for, all towards working towards race. I was told by the judge on the first case, the money he owed me, because I had dropped the counterclaim against him in the High Court, I couldn't proceed. So that case was never heard. The DVD case, evidence, crucial evidence, which I've put up onto Ask Tomo, the evidence that he didn't want to be heard in court, was submitted 2 days late and couldn't be heard. And therefore, yes, I did have that case dismissed and therefore lost the case. And yesterday, the 7 pigeons case, there wasn't enough evidence because he completely lied in court, saying it was never the agreement that I was paying third-party expenses against the 7 pigeons. Completely lied. Whereas he's still using roller banners now and he shows that I paid for, designed, everything he's never paid a penny for. So when he says he's won 4 cases, it's a complete lie. You cannot win cases that you've dropped. At most, he could argue he's won 2. And I would say the reason he's won 2 is, 1, because he was not allowing the evidence to go in. If you've got nothing to hide, why wouldn't you allow the evidence in? And yesterday, the judge said he could not determine that the agreement, because it was a verbal agreement, and Gary Tomlinson lied through his teeth, he could argue, yes, I lost it because it was dismissed. But you can't win cases that you dropped in the High Court. Incidentally, this all started in November 2021, when Robert Tomlinson had a seemingly blossoming relationship with somebody called Lois Ryan, who at the time was very heavily involved in the race. Lois Ryan knew a solicitor called Aaron Wood from a high-end London-based solicitors company. Aaron Wood was the one that ultimately was lied to by Gary Tomlinson about the facts that pushed the High Court case. Gary Tomlinson, together with Aaron Wood, the solicitor, and Lois Ryan were on the virtual court hearing on the 15th of June 2022, when the judge asked exactly what are you taking Mr. Lyford to copyright infringement for? That was the 15th of June. It's very weird and interesting that the new engagement and marriage that was due to happen in the October never happened. And 3 days after the 15th of June, all sign of Lois Ryan and Rob Tomlinson's blossoming relationship and romance disappeared from social media, which has never been heard from again when it comes to the Tomlinson family. So, more lies. Very simple. People, his followers, his cult following will hear him say he won 4 court cases. It's complete BS. It's a complete lie. At most, he's won 2 because he's an out-and-out liar. And incidentally, I have applied for and will get the transcripts of all 3 court hearings at Derby County Court. And those transcripts will be published on the Ask Tomo website. So everybody can see exactly what was said in court.
And again,
now, he's struggling for breath there. And he was struggling for breath yesterday after walking up the stairs to Derby Magistrates Court. One of the things that he said, which will be proven in court when the transcripts come out, is that he'd had cancer in the last 4 years. Now, interestingly, when his wife, Annette Tomlinson, posted that he may have had cancer, or may have cancer, that post was deleted the next morning. Did he? Has he got cancer? It could be another lie. It's a pretty sick thing to lie about, if that's the case. Why would he not want people to know he had cancer? Well, it may affect people entering into his race. But yesterday stated he'd had cancer. Another playing the victim, I'm bullying him thing. But of course, this is Gary Tomlinson. It's a one-sided thing always. Never did it enter his head, or did he give a single ounce of care That at the time, Lee Sullivan, when Lee Sullivan was being taken to court, at a great stress to him and his family, that Lee Sullivan actually did have cancer. That doesn't matter to Gary Tomlinson.
This judge could clearly see who were telling the truth and who were telling lies.
Oh, this is a funny bit. The judge could clearly see who was telling truth and who was telling lies. As I've said, Tomlinson lied from the first sentence to the judge. He brought up many irrelevant facts, and somehow he thinks the judge could clearly see who's telling lies. Again, the transcript of yesterday will come out, and everybody can read exactly what was said and what exactly the judge said.
So that's 4 judges, different judges, 4 different court cases. Mark Lyford has lost every case against Gary Tomlinson, Who Dares Wins, Annette Tomlinson and Robert Tomlinson.
Again, Gary, get it through your thick, bold head. You can't win cases you dropped. You dropped 2 of the 4 cases.
Now, the people out there who've continued to believe him and support him and listen to the bullshit what comes out of his mouth, now I hope you can eat your words and you can see who's telling the truth and been telling the truth all along. Remember, 4 courts, 4 different judges, 4 times I've won.
Come on, Gary, you're just repeating yourself now. You didn't win 4 times, and all the people out there that thought you were bullied and misjudged by me, many people know who you really are, Gary.
RPRA, twice in front of RPRA trying to get me banned for life. Twice I've beat him. I've won.
Again, Gary's definition of a win for cases dismissed, he thinks he's won. Yes, I did take him to the RPRA twice. One about the 30 pigeons he reported as strays, which he never entered into his race. And one connected to Johnny Langham, which we'll talk about in a later, with vile, horrible rumours. Speaking of the RPRA, I'm amazed that they can sanction, give a licence to his race when he's categorically lied about having quarantine station and lied about how he's got pigeons in. I'm surprised that they can sanction and license a race that brings in hundreds of pigeons illegally and then, albeit for a short time, re-exports them to France for the final race. Many of those pigeons don't come back. Only 2 weeks ago, he somehow managed to get the front page of the British Homing World and a montage of his 2023 race, just at the same time that the RPRA's own one-off race needs as much publicity as it can get. But yet Gary and Who Dares I Win got onto the front page of the British Homing World.
And you only win by telling truth.
You only win by telling the truth. Come on, Gary.
When you tell truth, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You don't have to look behind you. You can wake up in the morning with a clear conscience.
When you tell the truth, you can wake up with a clear conscience. You don't have to look behind you. You don't have to look over your shoulder. As again, the transcripts of the court will show exactly what lies he said in court. But when we talk about looking over your shoulder, let's talk about other people that Gary has lied to, intimidated and bullied. If Gary wakes up with a clear conscience, that shows you the type of man that he is. And if he wakes up with a clear conscience about how he's treated my good friend now, Maurice O'Donnell, who Gary called personally and threatened to blow him and his family up in his own house. Ask Maurice, one of the most honest and open men you will meet in pigeon racing, if Gary Tomlinson actually did that. And he'll tell you he did. In fact, weirdly, it's funny that after meeting Maurice, Gary and I in the Algarve in 2019, Maurice offered to put up 50,000 guaranteed prize money for Gary. This was after I'd introduced all the ideas of payment plans and guaranteeing the money. But Gary couldn't afford at the time to guarantee all of the money, and Maurice offered to put up the 50,000 in exchange for 10% interest. Gary ever refused that ever happened, but it did. And then he went on to threaten to blow Maurice up with his family in his house.
And his words to me coming out of court when I said, well, that's 4 you've lost now. His words were, tick tock, I'm going to ruin your race and let's see what entries you get.
Total lies again. Why would I want to ruin his race? He's already doing a really good job of doing it himself. He doesn't need anybody else's help. The success of his race is a result of hard work and honesty. For example, he set up only a quarantine station in the UK and imported pigeons from all over the world for his 2003 race. But he had no license. DEFRA didn't allow him one because his lofts were not adequate. Why were they not adequate? He says because they were made out of wood. Would DEFRA ever grant a license to a quarantine station in a barn building that's hundreds of years old? But he still imported the pigeons. And he even went on to lie to other one loft races and offer his services to them. That was after he said he was going to dob in any other one loft race that he saw having pigeons come in illegally.
I said you've been trying for 4 years now and failed. So please continue.
I genuinely think his memory's failing him. I don't need to tell people about his race because many people know about him and his race. Hundreds, thousands of people now know about Gary Tomlinson. As these stats will show, thousands of individual people have come to this website and found out about him. The same website he tried to take me to High Court about to get took down.
So, you people out there, which have ever doubted me, ever doubted my family, I hope you're now prepared to eat your words, because we've had to put up with this for 4 years.
Come on, Gary. People know who you are. You've got your little band of merry followers and your little sheep. They'll always support you no matter what. But everybody else who knows you really are.
And remember, this is a man who started another new enterprise now called Pioneer Syndicates. Can't you see all he's after? He's after getting your bank details. He's after getting your email addresses. The man's a professional con man.
Blimey, Gary, more defamation, more liable. A professional con man. I hope you got proof for that. Pioneer Syndicates is a great new thing I'm doing to get as many people into good quality one-off races who are not run by scumbags like Gary Tomlinson with the very best pigeons around. I want to get their bank details and email addresses. Come on, Gary, is this the same along the lines of I've hacked into your computers and made your live streams go wrong? Incidentally, if you want to get involved in real top quality one-off races, both in the UK and abroad, go to pioneersyndicates.com. You'll enter into great races. You'll have a part for as little as £10 in syndicates of great one-off races, only the best, ran by great people, and have the ability to fly top pigeons from the likes of Formula One Lofts, Maurice O'Donnell and John Angwin. And we're only just beginning. Let's get back to the most open, honest and transparent man in pigeon racing.
Remember, he gets a buzz. He gets a buzz out of filming girls wearing braces. He gets a buzz out of filming girls wearing braces. That's the type of person he is. That's in his own autobiography.
Blimey, Gary, more defamation. Yes, I ran 32,000 porn sites back in the day. They were all legal and licensed, ran by a company called Adult Check. Every single model used was over the legal age with full written consent and ID. But more about this vile, horrible spreading rumours later on.
And yeah, I'm laying a lot of steam off now because we've bottled this up for 4 years. And finally, the end, it's finished with. Finally, I've beat the bastard once and for all.
Letting a lot of steam off, Gary, that's for sure. But it's not exactly like you've been quiet for the last 4 years about all of this, is it?
So, we now at Who Dares Wins move on and put all this behind us. And I hope there's other people out there what's got some respect for us. And the people who ever doubted us can now turn around and say, hang on a minute, we got it wrong. Yeah, because I told the truth. You don't have to do any more if you're telling the truth.
Respect for you. People that doubted you. Come on, Gary, who are you kidding?
So, again, thanks to the people who have stuck by me and stuck by my family. And I know it's probably a bit degrading coming on social media saying this, but
how many people have not stuck by you and actually found out what you really like? Degrading coming on social media, Gary. You're the one that started the entire thing on social media. In fact, I asked you, do you really want to take this to social media? And you did.
As you know, my family's been broadcast on social media more than anybody. Who Dares Wins have been broadcast on social media more than anybody to damages.
Why is that, Gary? Who Dares Wins has been broadcast on social media because of all the lies you've been telling and people finding out. Nobody else tells more lies than you. And why do you think you've been damaged? Because of those lies.
And finally, it's backfired on him. Finally, it's the end of the court cases and we've gone and beat him. And we've beat him by telling the truth and by being honest. And that's the difference between me and Mark Lyford.
Backfired on me, Gary. You wouldn't know the truth if it slapped you in your bold face.
Remember, my dad didn't make me change my name. His dad made him change his name because he spent 4 years in prison.
Again, more lies and bullshit, Gary. I didn't spend 4 years in prison. I spent 2 for growing cannabis for nothing else. Never been charged, never been imprisoned for anything other than growing cannabis, a plant.
And every time he come out and then a crime was committed, his name cropped up. So that's why I had to change his name. So finally, that's the end of it.
Every time I came out, Gary, I came out once. I changed my name, not because anybody asked me to, because I wanted to.
Now moving on 2 days wins. We were seriously getting stuck into the one Loft pigeons, the winter race pigeons, next week. That's for certain. The summer...
Get a bit of promotion in there, Gary. You need all the promotion you can get. You mean the winter race that's turned into a yearling race? You wanted 600 entries. Incidentally, the 600 race entries, if you'd have got, would have covered the shortfall you had for the summer race because you had such low bad numbers. But you only got 200 and something pigeons, and 30 of them were venture pigeons. And you charged £10 to people that didn't manage to sell their pigeons at auction, and then said money doesn't matter to you after everything you've been, but went on to charge £10 per person. Now you've got 100 and something odd pigeons that you've got to race for £10,000 for, and you've basically screwed it all up. And greed has got the better of you, because I'll guarantee you won't be doing another one again because it's just too much hassle and not worth it.
entries are going very well. Make no mistake about it. I've just had an email, a text message now, 10 entries booked, and it's been pretty constant most of the week. I've had entries through the post again this morning. Remember, it's £150 a bird this year, so you're getting 3 birds for £450, or you can just enter one for £150.
The summer race, get some more promotion in there for the summer race, Gary. You need all the luck you can get to get as many entries as you can. Now, this man's not about the money at all. Another lie. There's nobody in the pigeon sport more about the money than Gary Tomlinson. Don't forget that. We'll come back to what you should think about when entering his summer race, if you indeed decide to, a little bit later on.
Yeah, onwards and upwards. Things are looking great. Pigeons are nice and healthy. And we move on now.
Things are looking great. Great. Why don't you tell all the people that entered your race, or people that maybe entered into your race, how many pigeons you've actually got entered? He's doing a prize draw in Blackpool. You can enter and you can win entries in his race. Let's talk about Blackpool for a minute. If you see Gary Tomlinson in Blackpool, ask him this question. Why will you never see Gary Tomlinson in Blackpool on his own? I know the answer why. 2019, when I was arranging to go to Blackpool with him to help promote his race, his wife came with him to Blackpool. He admitted why he would never be in Blackpool on his own, and why his wife felt the need to come with him to Blackpool. That's because Gary Tomlinson, the family man, the man that family matters completely to him, Annette, Rob, and whoever else he decides, in Blackpool, met up with a woman and essentially had an affair. That's the reason you'll never see Gary Tomlinson on his own in Blackpool. The great family man, open, honest, and transparent man that he is. Also, going back to Blackpool for a minute, if Gary Tomlinson approaches you and offers to give you money to beat me up in front of my son, as he's done quite a few times at different shows, and specifically did in Blackpool a few years ago, don't fall for the bait. Gary Tomlinson loves to offer people money to do the dirty work for him. He's offered people considerable money to beat me up in front of my own son at Blackpool show.
Finally now, put this to bed once and for all. And I just hope that people who have followed this bastard can now see him for what he is.
Yeah, Gary, people that followed me can see me for what I am. I'm the person that finally stood up to you and wouldn't accept any of your bullying. The day my car got set on fire, 70 minutes after we had a phone call about the money you owed me, is the day you thought that would be the end of me. I may not be a fighter like you, although I don't think you can fight much at the moment in your current state of health, but I'm a fighter in another way using my brain. And I've used my brain to expose you for what you really are. So yes, the people that follow me know what you really are. And know I'm the guy that stood up to you. It's funny. Many people at shows have come up to me who I don't know and have congratulated me for how much I've stood up to you, Gary, because nobody else in the past has. And as a result of me standing up to you, other people have stood up to you as well, which you hate, because bullies hate being stood up to. So, are we still enjoying the popcorn?
I've got emails here where you talk about bullies. I've got emails here from Lyford where he wanted a certain man in Ireland. I'll name him Jimmy Hamilton. He wanted Jimmy Hamilton hurting in a big way. I've got emails from Lyford quoting that.
Oh, how ironic. Gary Tomlinson talking about Jimmy Hamilton, two of the biggest bullies in the pigeon sport that the world's ever known. Here are the exact things I said to Gary Tomlinson about Jimmy Hamilton, who is a bully and a horrible individual at that. And as you'll see from them, I said, I've decided I want to see Hamilton go down. That doesn't mean be attacked. That means be out of the pigeon sport. Unlike you, Gary, normal people, normal nice people don't go around threatening to blow people's houses up, potentially blow people's cars up, and attack people generally. When they mean by people going down, they mean they would like to see them go out of the pigeon sport, just as many people would like to see you go out of the pigeon sport. Jimmy Hamilton was one of the very first people that contacted me when I got back into racing pigeons and turned in to be a horrible bully. And he pretends to be not in it for the money. But just like you, Gary, he is. This is a man that had a very old man in a pigeon club local to him beaten up. So two bullies talking about each other. These are the screen caps of exactly what I said to Gary Tomlinson. Again, fact. Never lies.
Also, what he did with British Masters, double advertising.
Oh, the British Masters, Gary. Right, let's talk about the British Masters. British Masters was took to court, the High Court, by Gary Tomlinson for using a similar advert style, flyer style. Was took to court. Lee and Ian Sullivan and their families suffered a great deal amount of stress over Christmas that particular year. Why did he take him to court? Because he used a similar leaflet, advertising leaflet. Lee runs a very successful business and couldn't be having all of the problems that it caused. Gary Tomlinson went on to say there's no problems between the Sullivan brothers and British Masters and I. He went on to lie on live video saying that there's no problem at all between them. And that was just 90 minutes before he got £8,500, which was settled in court. Gary Tomlinson then went on to get a High Court in judgment against me from publishing that written agreement. A man that's got nothing to hide doesn't need to get an injunction out against me to stop publishing it for 72 hours. That's what Gary Tomlinson did. If you speak to Lee Sullivan, who doesn't say a lot on social media, ask Lee Sullivan and Ian Sullivan what they think about Gary Tomlinson. Is Gary really stupid enough to think that they've forgotten what he did to them and their family? I'll guarantee you they're not. Let me also add that Lee and Ian Sullivan of British Masters Race are the most great people out there. They're the only people in the UK that I've dealt with that have run one-off races that have ever paid me up front with no problems for my services and my work. Great people, totally open and honest and transparent. And what Gary Tomlinson did to them and their family is absolute disgraceful, and went on to lie and got an injunction.
He did exactly the same with Wild Atlantic Way one-off race in Ireland when it was running. I've got all the evidence.
Total rubbish. I helped for free promote the Wild Atlantic Way. Sean Hunt Sr., when he was alive, great man, and his son, Sean Hunt. They were unhappy about Gary claiming that he was the biggest race in the UK and Ireland at the time, which, to be fair, he had put in his advertising material before. No double advertising, none of that. It was a simple case, which Gary was very amicable. Gary was the one that actually authorised whatever was put out. So, again, complete bullshit, complete lies.
But I've kept quiet. I've kept out and I don't want to bring other people into it. But that's the bastard that he is. But once again, Mr. Lyford, 4 times in court, 4 times I've won, twice in front of the RPRA, twice I've beat you. Now do the decent thing and pay the £4,600 that you owe us.
Another total lie. Early in 2023, I had bailiffs on my door to collect the money for costs. No win, a cost, because his solicitor was charging £500 an hour and I was only able to charge £19 an hour. I had bailiffs on my door for that. And when the bailiffs came, I started paying a monthly amount, which has been paid to the bailiff company and can be proven every single month. And yes, is it quite perverse that I've ended up having to pay him money when he's never paid me a single penny? Yeah, it is quite perverse. It's pretty screwed up. Well, under the British law system. But again, it's because his solicitor was charging £500 an hour. It was for costs. Do I regret dropping the High Court counterclaim? Of course I do. But you live and learn.
Thank you, everybody. And I'm sorry that I've had to let off steam like this, but Nobody knows what a weight off our minds this is now. We can now move on with lives and put this to bed once and for all. Thank you.
Feel sorry for me. Feel sorry for me. I'm the victim. I'm the victim. 4 years, everything caused by him trying to bully and me standing up to him. That's the video. You can watch the entire video, unedited in any way, shape, or form, clicking the link below. And you'll be able to see all of the replies to his video that you've just seen. A lot of the replies I'm going to go through. Because there's some people on there that need highlighting. There's some pretty disturbed people replying to this video. And I'm going to highlight them. So here we go. JJ Shulman. What a weird and snakish character he is. He writes, you won't get your money. He's a convicted criminal. Stealing from people. Have you got proof for that, JJ? You've been your way in courts. You know about libel and defamation. But anyway, he said, and people said give him a chance to change. Well, it's not changed. Otherwise, he would pay up. Well, here's the weird thing about JJ Shulman. There's many things about JJ Shulman that are weird, but here's the weird thing. Here is a recording from 2022 of Gary Tomlinson threatening JJ Shulman on the phone. JJ Shulman now appears to be very best friends with Gary Tomlinson. What a weird series of events. Listen to this.
And you want it to be a detriment to us. You want it to be damaging to our business. You want it to be that far that it's giving my wife a nervous breakdown. That's all right for fucking people like you. Yeah. You can't do it, you get a buzz out of it. Well, you know, you really do. But it'll come back and buy you. Okay, mate. Okay. No, okay, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, no, I told you before. Threats and stuff like that ain't working with me. Never will. I'm not threatening you. Where have I threatened you? I'm just saying. If you're heading that way, you know what I mean, it will come and bite. I'm heading nowhere. And you want it to be a detriment to us. You want it to be damaging to our business. You want it to be that far that it's giving my wife a nervous breakdown. That's all right for fucking people like you. Yeah. You can't do it, you get a buzz out of it. Well, you know, you really do. But it'll come back and buy you. Okay, mate. Okay. No, okay, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, no, I told you before. Threats and stuff like that ain't working with me. Never will. I'm not threatening you. Where have I threatened you? I'm just saying. If you're heading that way, you know what I mean, it will come and bite. I'm heading nowhere.
So there's JJ Shulman. Best mates now. And JJ's also friends with Timmy or James Simper, whatever you call him. And here's some of the conversations with Tim, James Simper, and JJ talking about me when JJ was heavily against Who Dares Winston Gary Tomlinson. And incidentally, again, completely transparent, nothing to hide, nothing to worry about. Click at the bottom of this link. You'll see the entire text transcript on WhatsApp between JJ Shulman and I of everything we've ever talked about on WhatsApp. And you'll see exactly what JJ Shulman was saying about Gary Tomlinson in 2022, and now he's best friends. And then we've got Johnny Langham. What a piece of class he is. Incidentally, Johnny Langham spoke to JJ about my situation and Gary's situation, and this is what he wrote. Also, Langham's gone on to be calling me a pedo, a child porn peddler, and a whole bunch of vile and horrible things for a long time. The RPRA locally deemed that it was bad enough that he should be suspended for 2 years if he didn't apologize for me, the comments. The council meeting at the RPRA dismissed it, however. Johnny Langham has gone on to continue, only just this week, writing this in one of my Facebook groups. Johnny Langham has been continuing the narrative that I'm a paedophile, child porn peddler, and a whole bunch of vile things. Johnny Langham happens to be one of Gary Tomlinson's best friends, lives very close to him, and you can see the kind of man that he is. Now, Johnny Langham hasn't got any proof for this other than an excerpt that's been completely took out of context of my book, and here's that excerpt. So what did I actually say in this paragraph that's been used in a vile and horrible way? I said, the thing is, if we saw a hot new trend for, say, girls with braces, that would get all the content we would and fill it within weeks. Some people wouldn't like this, but we did it. Now, what does that actually mean? That means that if we saw a new niche, I use the word girls as in people use the word girls' night out. As I've said before, everything was legal and licensed in the US, and everybody was above age with ID and everything. Hosted by a site called adultcheck.com. Gary Tomlinson has gone on to perpetuate this horrible, vile lie. And it so happens that Johnny Langham is one of his main proponents of spreading this vile rumours. Pretty disgusting and low life to do so. Being a father of myself, it seriously affects, and it's a horrible thing for people to perpetuate. And Gary Tomlinson is at the centre of perpetuating all of this. And Johnny Langham, unfortunately, is a follower of whatever Gary says. And incidentally, this book that Johnny Langham's got, I gave a copy of this book to Gary Tomlinson when I first ever met him. He had no problem in anything in my book at the time. Mick Mac, whoever you are, congratulations, Gary and family. Once again, you proved truth wins in the end. All the beast for 2024. Lee Clamp chimes in, a fellow Swaddling Coat Homing Society club member. Well done, Gary and Rob. You and your family can move on now, pal. And then we've got Kevin Frail, a particularly vile human being. You only got to look on Google and put his name into the search list. And endless cons out of him, entire savings. I hope you've got proof that I've ever conned anybody, or anybody, in fact, for any life savings of any kind. Entire savings gone on drugs and porn and the lot. So stop being bleak-minded, whatever that means, and just put the name Lyford in. Kevin Frail, the same man that threatened to kill all of my dogs on a social media post once. And we got Stephen O'Brien. Well done, Gary, little runt as he is. Stephen O'Brien's a particularly weird and nasty little character. Also used to threaten Maurice O'Donnell in the past. And the funny thing about Stephen O'Brien is that once when I was running my weekly shows, he complained there was too much of Gary on my weekly shows in my efforts to promote him at the time. And Stephen O'Brien's one of them people that will go in between whoever can help him best. He was an agent for the British Masters. And then somehow or another, Stephen O'Brien leaked out the vet results of the British Masters when they were running their race. Now, how did he get that? There's categorically only one person that he could have got that from, because he did not get it from Lee Sullivan. And that person was Ian Snaith. Ian Snaith had access to those vet results because he was working with the British Masters at the same time. Ian Snaith's a whole other ball game as well. And only a couple of shows ago, last year before, can't remember when, said, "Oh, you don't have to ignore me, Mark," with a little smile on his face. And he missed the point. I don't even want to see the man. Ian Snaith is another snake as far as I'm concerned, and a complete double agent as he was. And he did no favours to the British Masters at all. So much so, Lee Sullivan will never speak to him again. Ian Snaith supplied, I'm pretty sure, Stephen O'Brien with those vet results, and Stephen O'Brien did his best that he could to hurt the British Masters, and is one of Gary Tomlinson's biggest fans, biggest lick arses, and just one of those kinds of human beings. Keeps popping up every now and then, keeps saying his thing, and he's one of the first people to comment on Gary's posts, and he will be one of the very first members of the cult that is Gary. And then we've got James Simper, James, Timmy, whatever he's called. A man of few words. He's a nonce, liked by 3 people. James Simper likes creating as many different fake names and accounts to be able to comment on the Ask Tomo post as possible. And he does so very regularly. James Simper, I've never met the man, don't know him. James Simper has also had conversations with JJ Shulman in the past about things when JJ was very much anti-Gary. And James goes and puts all of these horrible, vile rumours that I'm a nonce. No proof, of course, but he just chooses to do so. He also chooses to comment many times, like I said, on the Ask Tomo post. With James, Timmy, whatever his name is, he's a big proponent of spreading the vile, horrible rumours that I'm a nonce, as you can see here. And there's some conversation of him having conversations with JJ Shulman as well. So another little snake. I've never met him. I don't know who he is. Really, and he just likes perpetuating the idea. And he's another big lick arse of Gary Tomlinson, and will be definitely joining the cult of Gary. Ronald Jackson, absolutely brilliant. As we all know, the man's a nonce and a con man. Again, I hope you got proof for all of this, Ronald. What I can't understand is there's some well-respected pigeon men who've stood up for him and let him go to their lofts. And remember, he knows fuck all about pigeons and says he's been involved for pigeons for 35 years. Yeah, I've been involved for pigeons now for 35 years. He's a con man and a liar. Well done, Gaz. Ronald Jackson had a falling out with JJ. They're all friends now. It's all very weird. So there you have it, folks. The video yesterday and the messages and the comments in a vein that are close to inciting hate and harassment and stalking, just as all the other similar ones that's happened in the past with his supporters. If you're watched this far, listened to this far, thank you very much for sticking with me. So, at the end of the day, I know one thing. I'm a big believer in karma. And I'm a big believer that karma will catch up with Gary Tomlinson and Gary Tomlinson's family. If karma doesn't catch up with him, HMRC may, DEFRA may, with all the international pigeons, HMRC with the VAT that nobody's ever had a VAT invoice for. Karma or one of those government agencies will catch up with him. And if not, the tens of other people that he's crossed over the years probably will catch up with him. I've treated this as a game. This was not about the money. It stopped being about the money a long time ago. A game that I have to treat as a game because if I don't, I'll let it get to me. It's affected my family and I way more than it should have done. And at the end of the day, there's not much more I can do. What I have done is I've demonstrated to thousands of people just what the man's like. Hundreds of people every month come to Google and see what this man's like. But there is a cult of Gary. There is a cult of Tomo. No one ever challenges him. I have. But everybody else that follows him takes what he says as gospel with no evidence. Like I said earlier, when you're an open book, you genuinely have nothing to hide, unlike Gary. Gary's got a lot more to hide. For instance, ask Gary if he's ever accepted members of a syndicate into his race who have a lifetime ban from a racing pigeon authority. He's got a lot more to hide. And I'm a completely open book. I even wrote a book. So when you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. As I said, very few people will challenge him. Certainly his followers won't challenge him and ask him for evidence. So, at the end of the day, this video is a line in the sand. I'm drawing a line because I'm absolutely sick of having to think about the man. I came out of the court yesterday thinking I'm done with him. I'm sick of having to hear him, see his bold face. I'm done. Now, was it worth it? Financially, not. No, I'm down over £10,000 that he owed me. The money he owed me for all the work I did in the first place. The money for the DVDs he never paid me for, and the 7 pigeons for my son I never got. So financially, it wasn't worth it at all. But what was worth it is demonstrating just what him and his family are like. AskTomo.com, despite numerous attempts, will stay online. But me being silent means one thing. I'm sick of having to think about, look at, or listen to him. And I'm drawing a line under it. So no, financially, it's not been worth it at all. It's been 4 years of horribleness and of losing a great deal of money. And like I said earlier, Gary Tomlinson's all about the money. Gary Tomlinson's family is all about the money. Now, moving forward with the line drawn, I'm looking forward to 2024 and beyond. I'm looking forward to going to Blackpool Show at the weekend, next weekend with my son. I'm hoping, as a result of this video, that I don't get my car blown up. I'm hoping my family or myself or my livestock don't get hurt. I'm hoping my lofts don't get set alight or any of my dogs are killed or I get killed. As I've had all of these threats, as you can see in the evidence you have, I've had many. But we draw a line in the sand. I am confident that I've demonstrated what the man's like. And what's also that's great come out of this is this, that out of this, I've got a lot of good friends. Maurice O'Donnell is one of the nicest people in the sport, most open, honest people in the sport, and a great master at One Love races. Maurice has stuck with me through thick and thin of this, and I view him as a good friend. I'm helping to promote everything he does because he's one of the people out there that should be promoted with his One Love race achievements. And I've got many other great friends as well. As I said earlier, I've made friends out of this whole thing because people have seen him for what he is. People like that I've stood up to him, and I won't back down to the bully that is him. So looking forward, I'm working with great people. I've got some great projects on, Pioneer Syndicates being one of them. I'm working with great people. I'm working with Maurice O'Donnell to help promote him and promote the syndicates. I'm working with John Gladwin and John Cowling from Formula One Lofts, two of the nicest people you could wish to meet in the pigeon sport, and a pleasure to work with. I'm helping them promote their site, their pigeons. They've got a great family of pigeons. They've got pigeons that have won many, many nationals and bred many, many national positions. And a pleasure, an absolute pleasure and dream to work with. I enjoy working with them. You couldn't wish to meet two nicer people. And there's many more people that I've made friends with, good, solid friends, who I look forward to spending time in Portugal with and spending time in Blackpool with. So moving forward, I've got a lot of great things planned. And I'm looking forward to breeding young birds for Zandy, my son, to race. He's focusing on Midland Channel and long distance races. And I'm looking forward to entering the good one-off races that are out there, many of which are in the UK. I'm looking forward not to having to think about the man again. Like I said, I hope nothing happens to me, my family, my livestock, my pigeons, or my property. If it does, the police will know where to look. My silence on Ask Tomo is just a simple sign of I'm done with the man. The site will stay up indefinitely to show as many people what he's like. And in the meantime, thank you for watching and thank you for listening, and have a good rest of your day. And if you're racing, have a great season ahead. And I look forward to meeting any of you that choose to meet me. Thank you again.